I'm Justin Wack, founder of Savvy Accountability, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Hansen. Dr. Hansen, we've been talking a lot over these last couple weeks about shame, about trauma, about ways that we cope and self-medicate with these behaviors that just temporarily fix the problem, temporarily give us that escape, that high, to temporarily overcome these things. It seems like everything is leading into a quote you said, "Don't deal with it, heal from it." Mm-hmm. Talk to us about how we can. Where does that healing come from? How can our viewers are sitting out there saying, "That's me. I can relate to that." You gave the analogy of a beach ball, trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can't do that forever. At some point, it's going to surface. How can we let that surface and truly heal from it and not have it just repeat the cycle of shame and trauma that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks?
Sure. Well, Justin, that's one of the things I specialize in, is helping people deal with their shame and do it in the retreat format. The shame-based defenses, those defense mechanisms, all they do is hide the problem. We try to hide it. It's like trying to put, as a little kid tries to hide his vegetables in his mashed potatoes, right, so that his mom thinks he ate them and he didn't, or he feeds them to the dog, just so no one has to see what's going on. The problem is most people probably see. They're aware of something's not right there. So, and we've talked about this before too, is the greatest feeling associated with shame is fear, and it's the fear of exposure. And so what we've got to do is we've got to push through that fear, which is the hardest part, because if I let this get seen, what's going to happen? That's where that fear is what's going to happen with it. The beach ball will eventually pop up. Right. It's just a matter of time. So one of the things we have to do, and I've used this phrase, I love the phrase that the curse becomes the cure, but it's finding a safe community. Obviously the first thing we've talked about, the healing over and over again, we've talked in our times together, is the exposure. Here's what I'm dealing with. Here's the hurt. Here's what is driving this. And Savvy helps with that. Savvy Accountability helps with that. And the idea of, okay, someone's going to help me not go to those sites. But we got to go farther. We got to go farther and say, what is driving that behavior, that activity?
Right.
It comes from being in a safe community, and not all communities are safe.
That's a good point. Yeah, you mentioned, Savvy Accountability was built from that perspective of the technology not being the be-all, end-all, but truly the healing coming from the inside out and
Absolutely.
Dealing with the problem from the inside out. And we've told our viewers over the last few sessions, about that exposure and that exposure being the key. You've mentioned the safe community, and you've also mentioned not all communities are safe, not all people are safe. Mm-hmm. How might someone watching be able to find that safe place? How can they find that community that truly will be safe and be able to facilitate that healing and not just continue the cycle?
Part of what we've got to do is sometimes we have to decide what pack are we going to run with. If we're running with a pack that is not healthy for us, we might need to lose some friends we need to lose. And that sounds harsh. None of us want to lose our friends. We like to keep our friends.
Yeah.
But are all our friends helping us is the question we have to ask. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves those tough questions. Is this person helping us? Or are they actually pulling me into a deeper chasm? And a lot of, we've heard the phrase, misery loves company. If we're hanging around people who are like us, we can sometimes think there's that core longing of understanding being met. They understand me. Mm-hmm. But what can happen is through that understanding, we can pull each other down. We get into a black hole of sorts.
Right.
We have to sometimes go outside that realm and find someone. And so it's important to say, is this person helping me, or is this group of people helping me? I've been in churches that are not safe. I've been part of organizations that said they were safe, but weren't necessarily safe to be in, because we're people. It's not to say that someone's not going to let us down, but to be in a position, be with people that we can say, this is a person I trust. and this is a person I can go to. It might have to be a professional person to do that.
Right. And so I see, you know, through your doctoral work and then through what you're doing now with Hanson Retreats, being able to provide that safe place for people, Savvy Accountability being the same way, but more of a facilitator with that, you know, that safe relationship, but that relationship still has to take place. And so, you know, finding that person, whether it's family member, friend, that isn't gonna, I guess, bring you down, both dealing with the same thing, but really try to be able to lift each other up.
Yeah. And in that safe place, another element of the healing of shame is because shame is from a traumatic event, some sort of episode, if you will, that happened in our lives, we need to have a different episode. And what I do with my retreats is I bring people before Christ where he can speak to that lie that they're not enough and tell them the truth of who they are.
Right.
And where that's where healing can come in, is when we quit believing that lie of shame.
Right.
And we have a new experience that says, you are dearly loved. You are precious to me.
Maybe you find yourself in that position today, watching the video here today. Maybe it's a past hurt. Maybe it's something you're going through right now. Maybe you're coping and dealing with these things online through porn, through this fantasy in gaming, through Facebook and spending your whole night isolated in front of a computer screen there. I invite you to go to Savvy Accountability and download the software today. Let that be that facilitator of that relationship that Dr. Hanson was talking about. I also encourage you to go to HansonRetreats.com and check out this process that he's talking about, taking you from dealing with this stuff to healing from this stuff.